All right, we're going to move on to our next topic now. And I realized that probably a little bit because I was fumbling with the previous video that some of that content didn't record. I'm just letting you know that. So I'm going to have to like re-record some of it for our online people. So I'm doing a fresh video here where we're going to dig into the multimedia category a little bit. One really fun thing to do on the web, and I don't know if like you guys felt this way, like the first time we added an image to a web page, it's kind of cool, right? It's better than adding words, because the pictures, uh, you know, can communicate a lot of information with very little effort. The same is true when using video and audio on web pages. We do have dedicated tags that we use in HTML5 for adding audio and video content, and they're similar in their usage. And I just want to show you the examples that I have here in the lecture notes. And I'm just zooming in just to make that code a little bit clearer. It is important to note that in previous versions of HTML, it did not natively support multimedia content. So in other words, if you wanted to add a video or add music to your page, like let's say 20 years ago, man, it was like a whole rigmarole of adding like plugins and containers and writing like all this special code to make it work. And then when the HTML5 standard became standardized in 2014, these became native tags to the browsers, and has made it significantly easier to add multimedia content. Because basically you just use the video tag or you just use the audio tag, right? And it's self-explanatory, no like weird syntax or plugins or anything like that. The browsers themselves have the capability to play certain types of formats natively. When HTML5 first became a standard, not all the browsers were consistent with the file formats, but now that we're a good 10 years past that point, it has become pretty standardized, and there are some formats that are recommended over others. Let's start first with the video tag. And with the video tag, and I was like, struggle with this one a little bit because I have to have like a video to post, which is one of the conundrums that you run into as a coder. It's all right. Most of us, when we consume video content on the internet, how do we consume it? Think about that. You go to YouTube or something like that, or some, TikTok or, reel on Facebook or something of that nature. And it's containerized basically for you. And ultimately that is the type of technique I still recommend for videos. However, there are those times where you have videos of your own that you want to share. So I'm going to do something really kind of goofy here. And I'm not sure how this is going to transport online because I am putting up personal files on a screen here. But the reason I was out of town the last couple of days is I traveled to Iowa to see Paul McCartney. I got great tickets at the last minute. And I'm like, well, I need a video to post in my class. What video could I post? And I see I have one here that's kind of short. It's like 45 seconds long. This one's 39 seconds long. I'm not really sure which one to post here, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to download the video. So this is a video I actually shot. Okay. It's loud, I'm sorry, but I'm going to actually download it. And it's downloading right now to my machine, and you can see that up here. And I don't know how long that's going to take, but there's a couple of points about this that I want to make. A photograph, and we learned this, right? Like a photograph, when you take it with like even your phone, which isn't super high resolution, can create enormous file sizes for just one image, right? And then we usually have to take those images and downsize them to put them on a web page to make them scale correctly. The same thing happens with video content as well, except you think about this, if one single image is too huge to put on a web page, what about a video? Well, yeah, videos are collections of images. And so that video that I just downloaded from my photo repository here is, and I'm going to show you this, it's 93 megabytes in size. And I'm going to actually rename this, and I'm just going to call it Sir Paul Live That's good enough. And I want you to notice the file format that I downloaded it from. So the way that this works is I shot the video with my phone camera. My phone automatically uploads it to my Google Drive. And then I can go into my Google Drive and download it as a video. That's the common way to do it, right, for the modern era. And so I can take this video and I'm going to copy it. Mind you, it's 94 megabytes in size, right? Compared to like an image, which is maybe a couple hundred K, or maybe a megabyte or something like that. I am going to put it in my file structure, just like I would any other resource. But I'm going to have a little conundrum now because now I have, okay, so I have images. Do I have to go in an image folder, or should it really go in a video folder or an audio folder? This is like these little wrestling things that you're going to have with yourself. Some people will just create one folder where they put all their media and call it media. But what I usually do, and I'm just telling you this up front, is I usually have a video folder and then I have an audio folder. So I may as well make that right away too. Right, so I have images, video, audio. Right. I'm going to put my video folder here. I'm just going to paste it in. I did a copy on it. And then I'm going to add that to one of my pages. I got to find a spot to put it. So maybe the thing to do right now is to actually create another page. And this is going to be weird because I'm looking at a Paul McCartney concert on a Green Bay Packer page, whatever. This is a demonstration, right? So maybe I'll just create a media page. How about that? I'll just create a media page. I will clone my about page to do that. So I'm going to make a copy of that. I'm going to paste it back in. I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call it media. On the media page, I'm going to get rid of all the content I have here in the middle. There's a table and an image. And then I'm just going to go straight to using the video tag. The video tag does have an opener and a closer, and usually you structure it like this. And if you look at the lecture notes that I have on this, right, just to explain kind of the formatting of this. The video tag itself can hold a number of different source files. And this is kind of interesting. The general best practice considered for the web is to have your video file in multiple formats. So if I have it as an MP4 file or an OGG video file or maybe a QuickTime movie MOV file, those are all very common formats. And the thinking is like I might be delivering this to a user that's on a phone or a tablet or a game console or a television set or a laptop or who knows what. And their device might not be able to play that format natively. MP4 is relatively universal, as is the OGG format. So those are kind of the recommended formats. The Apple QuickTime movie format, though, is not normal, like on PCs, for example. It'll work great on a Mac or an iPad or iPhone, but it won't necessarily work on a PC without the right plugins installed or the right video player, right? If you have the VLC player, that kind of like supersedes all that stuff and makes it work anyhow, which a lot of people know about, but that's just kind of the general tip. So the other little settings that you put in there, how wide you want the video to be, like mine's full HD, so it would fill the whole screen if I don't make it smaller. Whether or not you want play controls on it. If you want a placeholder image that sits there when the video is not playing, you can control that. Otherwise, it, I think, picks the first frame. You list your source files if there's more than one, and then you throw in a message just in case the video doesn't load. That would be the message to your user. All right, so let's kind of mimic all of that. All right. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to first set a width. And I think, I don't know if 400 is too small. Let's go 600 on that. Let's have controls so we can pause and play, right? And I'm not going to put in a poster image. I'm just going to go with those two things. So then in between here, I'm going to put in my my source. So you just say source and then src. So source, src, and then I put in the file. And in this case, it's in the video folder. And there is the file. And then normally we would put in the type and how do they list it? Video slash MP4. And real frankly, this last little piece is not super necessary. It's just considered good practice. And then if I had a fallback version, let's say I had an OGG file, I don't, right? But just imagine that I do, that I would have a backup file here just in case the first one doesn't load. And I'm putting in basically a simulated one. And then my message, if it doesn't load, your browser does not support this video. Something like that. So this will only show up if your browser is like so locked down that it doesn't play videos. That shouldn't be the case. Let's go ahead and save this. And let's go here. And I want you to remember, I didn't add this to my navigation yet. I should, but I'm going to have to type in the address for the page manually. So media.html, and there it is, loading up on the screen, and I should be able to hit play. And you can hear the sound, and I can change the volume, and I can pause it, and I have all the timeline tools. I can even change the playback speed, and I can make it full screen if I wish, right? You see how easy that was to add. Okay, here's the problem though. This is a 45-second video, and it's 93 megabytes. A lot of people, if they're posting their own videos, usually don't take native videos that they've created and add them to their website. What they normally do is they take videos and they throw them up on YouTube. And this is probably a better technique for adding a video to your website. And maybe I can find footage of the concert. You know, I'm sure some person that was out there recorded it also, right? And so I'm going to click on their video. Right, so this is shot by a fan with their phone in the crowd, and real close to where I was sitting. I was sitting right in that area of the show. And what a lot of people don't realize is they have tools here. Well, this person allows for a download, so you could download it and add it to your website if you wish. But the better way to do it is really to click the share button and then click this first button here, which says embed. Okay. And notice that they provide you with some code. And what you can do here is just highlight that code, copy it, bring it back over to your editor, and just drop that code right onto your page. And yes, it is scrolling off the edge of the screen, but I am going to fix that here in a second. Well, actually, we'll just turn on the word wrap, and it fixes quickly. A couple things I want you to notice, right? This code is generated by YouTube and Google, basically. And they have some settings in here. And you notice the kind of tag that they're using is an element called an iframe, which basically allows you to take content from another website. I want you to listen to this really carefully and have it reside inside your website. So I'm not really like putting their video on my website. I'm just creating a little spot on my website where I can look at YouTube from my website. That's really what's going on. So an iframe is a container that allows you to look at other websites. And that's really kind of bizarre when you think about it. I don't push people to use iframes a lot for other reasons, but it is a technique that we use for YouTube videos. Provided the video is allowed to be shared outside of YouTube, it'll work on my website. So I just saved this, and I'm going to go back to my browser here, and I'm going to refresh, and there's the YouTube video. And notice what YouTube did to me. Right. So when YouTube feels that the content is copy protected, which, okay, so he's a famous artist, whatever. It's not being allowed on a third party site. So some of the stuff that you find on YouTube is not allowable. Okay, so all right, so that one didn't work, right? But I can click through and watch it on YouTube. Okay, what if I wanted to find one that would work? Well, for example, I can go to my own channel where I publish like my videos for class, for example, right? And I just recorded a lecture video for my natural language processing class earlier today. So this one I could, well, let's just go to it on YouTube, right? And you can see the content. Welcome everybody. All right, and I'm going to once again click the share button, get the embed code, just copy all that code. I'll bring that back over to Visual Studio Code, and this one I'll add here. Right. We will save it back to the browser again and refresh. And there's my video. Notice how that one's showing up because I don't have it protected that way. Welcome, everybody. This is the lecture video for Unit 7. All right. And ultimately, I think this is the best way to put videos on your website. I think this is kind of an interesting approach. You can create your own videos like I did of the Paul concert. I could move that up to YouTube, and then I could embed it from YouTube onto my website, and then I don't have to have a 94 megabyte file on my file structure, right? So I would prefer you use the YouTube approach to do video. That would be my suggestion. All right. The other thing that we're learning about here is the audio tag. And once again, in order to demonstrate this, you have to have an audio file to work with. So I'm going to go find something here that I can pull in that makes sense. And I have like kind of my whole library here, or parts of my whole library here. So I'm just going to pick a song I like. And let's just grab this one here. And I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to move this over to my website structure. Now, if you don't have music in the form of an MP3, you can go out online and find music, by the way. Or you can create a recording of your voice on your phone and download it to your device once again. But I'm going to take this file and I'm going to place it here. I am noticing that it's got spaces in it, all this stuff that are like no-nos for putting it on a website, by the way. I'm going to leave it alone though, and just to kind of demonstrate that it's not impossible to add stuff with spaces and weird names to it. So I'm just leaving it alone, and we'll let Visual Studio Code negotiate the link for me. Then I'll show you like kind of what happens to links when you start adding like spaces inside there. For this one, I'm actually going to move this up to the top. And I don't know if you guys picked up on this. Did you guys notice that the video tag, the iframe tags also are inline elements? And they all appeared like in line with each other. And if I want to put them on separate lines in my code, I should really have line breaks like that. And in fact, maybe even a couple of line breaks. So I'm going to just insert some, right? And I will indent them. And then up here at the top, I'm going to put my audio stuff here at the top. So here I'm going to create an audio tag, and very much like the video tag, works almost identically, except we're working with sound now instead of video. Common settings, the one most common one is to have the controls so you can pause and stop and turn up the volume or turn off the volume. There's also an option too where you can have it basically autoplay. So that's an option you can throw in there, but I caution you, please don't use that one. So I'm just saying it out loud because I think it's in very poor taste generally. And then we put in our source. So we'd say source src, and here's where we go audio, and there's the song, and it just drops it in like that. All right. In an ideal world, we also list the type here, which is audio.mpeg. Oh, my double quotes are broken there, so I got to fix those. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here, folks, so it all fits on one line. And then in an ideal world, like the other video example, I would have a backup, usually like an OGG file or something like that. Right? I don't have that file. And then also a message, your browser doesn't play music. And in the modern era, I don't really even think this message is necessary, but it's considered best practice. Okay. So let's go ahead and load this up so you can see how that operates. So going back here, I'm refreshing. So the videos are now stacked. And here's my audio player. Isn't that cool? Right? So I can just hit the play button on that. Right? So you can hear some music right inside your browser, and very, very primitive once again, but it works really well, right? And it's a great way to add a little something to your website. And maybe your website would benefit from having like podcast audio or a little demo video of something or whatever it may be. It depends on your topic, obviously, right? But I do want you to experiment and get at least one audio file on your website and one video on your website, preferably pulling down from YouTube would be the preference. All right, let's get to the point where we're just about to wrap up here, where we have the examples here to consider, right? And they show you some of the other features that you can turn on and off. They have some best practice recommendations, is compress your media files. So we use MP3 files because they're small compared to full digital WAV files, for example. The same thing is true with movie files, and in fact, usually with video files, I'm like, don't even bother. It's cheaper to load your stuff up on YouTube or Vimeo or one of those video sharing sites, and then just link to it and drop it on your web page. If you have like TikTok videos or videos from other platforms like Facebook Reels, there are all sorts of tools that allow you to put them on your web pages. I like using YouTube the best. For whatever reason, you can take that with a grain of salt. They say avoid autoplay with sound. There's nothing more annoying than landing on a web page and then like music is blaring and you're in a quiet office environment, or you've been there probably. I do suggest you have at least two different formats if you're sharing local video. If you have video conversion tools, you can convert to alternate formats. And they suggest MP4 and WebM for video. For audio, it's pretty much MP3, M4As, which is like the iPhone format, and maybe WAV files would be typical ones. All right, a couple other topics that we want to talk about here is because we do have the assignments at the bottom of the page, and one of them is our site building assignment. Our site building assignment is the one that incorporates multimedia, by the way. But what I'm going to have you do is, based upon the design that you were putting together in Unit 6, there was a site design assignment where you would come up with a wireframe idea, like which topic you're picking, and then what assets basically you have available, in your description of it all. You're at the point now where you need to start getting the framework of that website built. So if you're working once again off the same theme that you started with, fantastic, right? You can keep running with that. And so for example, I think I have somebody in this group, and I don't know if it's any of you here, that's building a website about flutes, because they must play the flute, right? And so they're probably not going to change their topic, because that's a pretty good topic. They have lots of information and photographs, and they're just going to keep building that. I'm building mine on the Green Bay Packers. I don't anticipate changing, so I'm going to stick with that one. I'm just going to make it better and better and better every week. And what I want you to do is to start looking at your layout and start thinking about what tools or coding aspects you'll use to build it. Maybe you'll stick with what we're kind of doing so far, which is if you look at my pages, right, I have the body section and there's a header and a nav. You might structure yours a little differently, but most people have that. Most people will have a wrapper that maybe goes around everything inside the body, or maybe just around the main content, like I chose to do it. And then they'll also have a footer that might be inside that wrapper or outside, and that's all very subjective. It's all depending on your design, right? You might also have designs where, like, for example, well, I want my home page and my about page to look like this, but I want my gallery and my videos page to look like this. So you might have two designs that you're working from. And if you do, then you need to build the frameworks for those. But what I would like you to do in the site building assignment basically is to think about, right now at least, the overall structure semantically, like what that is. You know, where's the header? Where's the nav? What is the nav above the header? Some people would like that. Or is the nav going to be on the left? And then is there a footer, and is that going to be at the bottom? And then am I narrowing up my content? All of that, and start to build that structure. And ideally, all the pages that you would have available for your website. So if you haven't thought about that yet, now's kind of the time. So let's say I was building a restaurant website. I might have one page that's kind of like, welcome to the restaurant. And then I'd have another page where here's my menus. And then I might have a different page where it's like, here's our event schedule. And then here's our gallery page. And then here's our contact page. And that might be all I need for my restaurant site. Right. So I'll pre-build all those pages, and then I'll focus on the design of the header, nav, and footer for now, not worrying too much about the content, right? Except for the fact that I'll add multimedia to one of those pages, right? That would be the site building assignment. When you build your website, you should really start to think a little bit about what audience you're trying to connect with, right? So for example, if I was building a website, let's say for a video game, because I'm interested in a video game, I might go with a dark theme. I might have it very graphic heavy. I might have links to my Discord or something like that. You know, that would be pretty normal. I might have a whole bunch of videos of me playing that game, or linking to videos of other people playing the game. You know how that goes, right? If I was doing something where I was catering to an audience that might be hard of seeing, I might have a high contrast website. So white backgrounds, black text, or vice versa. If I was doing something that was aimed towards children, it might be more colorful. The fonts might be more playful. It might be more visually oriented. And I want you also to think about, like, what's your audience going to do? When is your audience looking at your website? Remember, most people tend to look at websites on phones these days. So you might not want to have content that's super wide. You might want to have content that's a little bit more narrow. Also consider your internet connection. If somebody was trying to look at the video that I uploaded from the concert that I went to, and they're on their mobile phone and they're on their data plan and they have a cap on it, and they're trying to play my 93 megabyte video, I just like chewed up a big bunch of their data, right? Not a good idea, right? So that's another reason why to use technologies like YouTube, because YouTube streams it in, and it doesn't download the whole thing unless you watch the whole thing. It only goes a little bit ahead of where you are, right? Whereas if you load local audio or local video, it tries to preload all of it, right? And then you're chewing into people's data plans, and that's a problem. The other thing I really want you to start experimenting with quite a bit, and I'm going to go back to my page here, is start looking at the inspect tool and playing with it and starting to analyze your content, especially like I've been playing with my code page and weird boxes and stuff, and how I can find these boxes and I can see things about them that I normally wasn't seeing before. So for example, as I hover over box 2 in the HTML structure, notice on the main screen here, it identifies that it's a div, that it's got an ID of box 2, that it's 100 pixels by 100 pixels. It also, if you look really carefully at that box as I hover, it shows me there's kind of like a blue box in the middle and there's this green padding area. So I can see the padding in the object. I can also see all the styles, and then I can do like goofy things like turn the styles on and off or change them and notice the effect that those changes have. And it's really a powerful tool, you know. And so a lot of times what designers will do with this tool is they'll go in here and something's not quite sitting right and they'll play with the CSS settings here. It does not affect your file though. So I can go, oh, I tried this and I came up, I think the width should really be, I don't know, 120 pixels instead, right? And if that works for me here, then I can go into my code and adjust my code and have that set. Right? So this is a really powerful tool. This is a very tip of the iceberg of what this tool can do, by the way. This is very, very powerful. The two browsers that are best with the inspect tool are Chrome and Firefox. And if you ask me, Firefox's inspect tool is a little superior to Chrome's. They're very, very similar, by the way, but I still feel pretty strongly that way. These panels can be moved, so you can put them on different sides of the screen. You can put it on the bottom. You can put it on the right or the left. You can also choose to undock it, and it's a floating window, so you can move it to another screen. That's kind of a good thing too. The other aspect that I really like about this tool is some of the other tools that we're going to learn later in life, basically. But it's got this really neat thing up here, right? And notice it's got a toggle device toolbar. And I can go in here and I can craft the output of my code to fit, for example, a pre-configured phone type. So this is what it would look like on a iPhone Pro Max, iPhone 14 Pro Max, whatever that is, right? And so that's one of the neat things too. Firefox has a different collection here, and you can add different devices if you have like very specific ones that you're targeting, right? And the other thing that I recommend to people is when you're trying to imitate what something looks like on mobile, and I've done this a few times now, is just narrow up your screen and see what happens, right? If you can do this with your browser and it's still kind of, your stuff still kind of looks okay, you're kind of all right, is my point. I think that takes a little bit of experimentation. And next week, when we get into talking about flex boxes and CSS grid, we'll learn how to do responsive design in a little bit better fashion, right? That works more fluidly with content. We'll also learn a little bit about media queries and stuff, but I think this kind of covers the majority of our content here tonight. So play with the inspect tool, and Firefox and Chrome are the two preferred browsers. Try different IDEs, by the way. The other thing that I will point out is Firefox also has what we call a developer edition. So they have a special version of this browser that's built for people that code, right? And the inspect tools are at a slightly higher level. And so if you're really, especially if you're really into Firefox, I would recommend this version of Firefox if you're coding. The development tools are superior. Now, keep in mind that the Edge browser and the Safari browser are still basically Chrome under the hood. So they're going to behave very similarly to Chrome, although the inspect tools look a little bit different. But I still like Chrome and Firefox better for the inspect tools overall. All right, this video will end here.